guys, it's me, Miss Norris, and today I'd like to share a fun read aloud with you that's very wintry. The story that I would like to read to you today is called The Mitten, and it was written by Alvin Tresselt and illustrated by Yaroslava, and it tells the story of a lost mitten. If you're ready to hear the story, I'm ready to share it with you. Here we go. Oh, before we start, I might have given you the impression that I am wearing mittens, but these are actually gloves. A mitten is usually something that keeps your hands warm, but has one hole for your thumb, and the rest of your fingers go in the other space. So it's not like one finger at a time. It's all your fingers and then your thumb. And that's kind of important to this story. So if you're ready to hear the story, now I'm ready to share it with you, but I'm going to have to take my gloves off so that I can turn the pages. The Mitten. Oh, there's a good picture of a furry mitten. It was the coldest day of the winter, and a little boy was trudging through the forest gathering firewood for his grandmother. "Bring back all you can find," the old woman had said as she sat knitting a pair of mittens. "The north wind blows cold, and we must have a good fire to keep us warm." So it's going to be very, very cold, and the little boy is going out to gather wood, and Grandma says, "Get a bunch because it's going to be very, very cold." All morning the boy worked picking up sticks until his sled was well loaded. Then a very strange thing happened. Just as he picked up the last stick, he dropped one of his mittens in the snow. Womp womp. Now, how a boy could do this on the coldest day of winter, I'll never know. But that's the way my grandfather tells the story. Off he went with his load of wood, and the mitten was left lying in a snowdrift. So you can see his sled is full of wood, and he's ready to start heading home. And he doesn't notice, but his little mitten has been left behind in a snowdrift. As soon as he was out of sight, a little mouse came scurrying through the woods. She was very cold, and when she spied the little boy's mitten with its feathery fur cuff, she popped right in to get warm. It was just the right size for a tiny mouse. Well, that's a good lucky thing for a tiny little, she even has her little suitcase. She's going to move right in. Perfect for one little mouse. Presently, a green frog came hip-hopping over the snow. "Anybody home?" she asked when she saw the mitten. "Only me," said the mouse, "and come in quickly before you freeze." So even though the mitten isn't very much space, when this little frog comes by, the mouse says, "Oh, come in here. It's cold out there. Get in out of the cold." I'm going to show you how happy they look all snug in that mitten. They had no sooner settled themselves snugly in the red wool lining when an owl flew down. "May I join you in that lovely mitten?" he asked. "If you mind your manners," replied the mouse, for owls always made her nervous. "And don't wiggle around too much," added the frog, "because it's a bit tight in here." So, even though I'm going to tell you something that's not so nice. In nature, owls usually eat mice. So, even though she's a little nervous about the owl, she tells him to mind his manners and that he can come into the mitten too. That's getting a little tight. There's a mouse, a frog, and now an owl. Look at him. Pretty snug. It wasn't long before a rabbit came down the forest path. Is there room for me in that nice warm mitten?" asked the rabbit. "It's awfully cold out here." No, not much space left, said the mouse, and the frog, and the owl. But come in, we'll see what we can do. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's already pretty full, but they're showing a lot of kindness and saying to the rabbit, there's not much space, but we'll see what we can do. Even before the rabbit had gotten herself tucked in, a fox trotted up to the mitten, and after a good deal of trouble, she got herself in along with the others. The mouse was beginning to think maybe she shouldn't have been so generous, but with the bitter wind outside, what else could she do? So we got the mouse, the frog, the owl, the rabbit, and now the fox. And the mouse is starting to think, maybe I've made a mistake. This isn't very cozy anymore. And now, as if things weren't bad enough, the next visitor was a big gray wolf who wanted to come in too. I don't know how we'll manage it, said the mouse, but we'll try. Everyone moved around a bit, and finally the wolf was squeezed into the mitten. It was very crowded by now, but at least it was warm. So that's gotta be it, right? We got a mouse, a frog, an owl, a rabbit, a fox, and now a wolf. 6. They can't possibly put anything else in there. Excuse me. Things had just gotten arranged nicely when the animals heard a great snorting. It was a wild boar, and he was very anxious to get in out of the wind. Oh dear, cried the mouse, for the mitten was already beginning to stretch a little. We just don't have any more room. Oh, be careful, said the boar. And with that, he squinched himself into the mitten, along with the mouse, the frog, the owl, the rabbit, the fox, and the wolf. I know this is so, because my grandfather told me. So you can see that now there's a little hole starting to form on the seam, and one has formed here that makes like a little window. But the boar is going to come in. But that's got to be it, right? But the worst was yet to come. For who should appear now but a bear? He was very big and very cold. No room, cried the animals, even before the bear had a chance to speak. So the mitten is very, very, very full. And as soon as they see the bear, they say, there's not room, there's no room, there's no room, there's no room. But will there be room? Nonsense, said the bear. There's always room for one more. And without so much as a please or a thank you, he began crawling into the mitten. He put his paw in first, and the mitten creaked and groaned. He put his other paw in, and one of the seams popped. Then he took a big breath and pushed himself in. So the owl's looking out through the seams. There's other animals' tails coming out of the other seams. And the bear is just wiggling in. Mitten's really holding a lot. Now, while all this was going on, along came a little black cricket. She was very old, and her creaky legs ached with the cold. When she saw the mitten, she said to herself, Now that looks like a nice warm place. I'll just hop over and see if I can squeeze in too. So first I'll show you that mitten, where there's an owl and the rabbit living in the thumb. There's body parts sticking out the seams, out the top, made a little window. But it's just a little cricket. I mean, if a bear could fit in there, there's always room for one more, like the bear said, right? But, me. That's all that was needed to finish off the poor old mitten. The cricket had no more than put her first scratchy foot inside when, with a rip and a snap, the stitches came apart, the old leather cracked, and the soft lining split in half, popping all the animals out into the snow. So all of those other animals were able to fit in there, but when the cricket puts in one foot, everything explodes, and everyone explodes out into the snow. Well, at this very moment, the little boy discovered that he had only one mitten, so he went back to see where he might have dropped the other one. But all he could find were the ripped apart pieces. And he thought he saw a little mouse scurrying away with a bit of red wool perched on her head. It looked very much like the lining from the thumb of his missing mitten. "Oh well," said the boy, as he snuggled his cold hand inside his coat. "My grandmother will surely have my new mittens finished by now." Then he hurried home, with the north wind nipping at his cheeks. So you can see the boy went back to find his mitten, and this is all he found. And he swore he saw a mouse with the thumb perched on her head. He thought he was going crazy. He was right. And my grandfather says he never did know what really happened to his mitten. The end. Look at those snazzy new mittens that Grandma made for him. Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this little bit of winter in July, please hit that thumbs up button at the bottom of the page. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. If you're not a subscriber yet, please click that subscribe button down at the bottom of the page. And don't forget to click the bell so that you're notified when there's new content. Tune in later this week for some more winter in July, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.